The 2024 presidential election, the most significant election of our lifetime, has come to an end. What have we learned already, and what is next? Here's the point. It is now being called the greatest political comeback in U.S. history. Former President Donald Trump, the 45th President of the United States, is now President-elect Donald Trump, the uncontested and undisputed winner of the 2024 presidential election in both the popular vote and the Electoral College. He will be the 47th President of the United States in January 2025. There is no question that the American voters have spoken, even now as the contest in Arizona is wrapping up, which Trump is projected to win. He has convincingly swept every battleground state, including the indomitable Blue Wall in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, something he previously did in 2016, but now by even greater voting margins than before. This presidential race will have massive implications for the current state of U.S. politics, strategy, policymaking, polling, and the future makeup of the Democratic and Republican parties. Right now, the Republican Party has claimed control of the U.S. Senate and is poised to take control of the U.S. House of Representatives. These new majorities will not only solidify Republican control, but it will mean new Republican leadership in the Senate as Mitch McConnell steps down. So what have we learned already, and what is next? Here's the point. This presidential election was anything but typical. Poll any American, young and old, and most will point to the outlandish, abnormal, and highly irregular series of events that have transpired in the last 4 years, and really going all the way back to the election of 2016. The first most obvious thing that was made certain in last night's election is that former President Donald Trump has been vindicated. His political legacy is now permanently enshrined in American history. While it remains to be seen what the history books will say exactly, a serious appraisal of Donald Trump is unavoidable and unassailable. President Trump was not vindicated by the media, the administrative state, by Wall Street or Hollywood, but he was vindicated by the American people in both the popular vote and the Electoral College. He didn't just win, he won in a landslide. And when you consider all the institutions that were aimed to ensure there would be no pathway back to the White House, Donald Trump did defy all odds and expectations to overcome. From the Russiagate scandal, to the fallout of the 2020 election, to big tech censorship and cancellation, to lawfare and the weaponization of the courts, to 2 failed assassination attempts, and an endless media propaganda campaign to vilify and demonize, the American voters, not the establishment, vindicated Donald Trump. Second, the entire makeup of the Republican Party and the conservative movement is and will be fundamentally different than before. It is now decidedly a populist movement for better and for worse. There will be earnest debate about what is most important concerning U.S. domestic and foreign policy. There will be a debate on economic and fiscal policy, national security, and the social policies impacting religious liberty, educational freedom, marriage, family, and the protection of the unborn. The Republican Party is now made up of a new kind of populism that includes poor and middle-class families, union workers, evangelicals, young libertarians, Black and Latino Americans, and old Democrats who feel politically homeless. For better or worse, the Republican Party is fundamentally different today. Third, the Democratic Party has to ask some honest questions about what went wrong and what is next for the platform's future. The 2024 presidential election revealed severe gaps in the integrity of the nominating process. You will recall that President Joe Biden had already gone through a Democratic primary process and was already the presumptive nominee. It was only during the June 27th debate with Donald Trump that millions of Americans were forced to see the inescapable truth of Joe Biden's cognitive decline, something the mainstream media was in willful denial over and desperate to avoid. Biden's debate performance led to his inevitable replacement with Vice President Kamala Harris, who was hand-selected but had never won a primary vote in 2020 or 2024. She was unpopular in her own party. The postmortem of this election will mean that Democrats must decide if they will double down on the radical platform that promoted late-term abortion, the transing of minors, open border policies, runaway inflation, skyrocketing debt, and weak and docile foreign policy on the international stage. Fourth, it is clear the pro-life movement is presently stalled and in jeopardy. While Amendment 4 was defeated in Florida because it failed to achieve the 60% threshold, it still had greater than 50% of the vote. That means that Florida's current 6-week ban on abortion remains in place. In Nebraska, voters backed the state's 12-week abortion ban, and in South Dakota, voters rejected their abortion amendment. All other states, Colorado, Nevada, Maryland, New York, and Montana, saw amendment victories on abortion. It is clear that Democrats hold the more radical position, while the majority of Republicans presently hold to moderated positions that allow for exceptions on abortion. This is a priority that was expressed by President Trump from the 2024 presidential platform, that he was moving away from pro-life priorities. While the pro-life movement will never quit, we are doing all that we can to defend the policies and statutes already in place. Finally, the evangelical vote still played a significant role in this election, though many exit polls suggest that it was not as significant as in the 2020 and 2016 presidential elections. While there was a major push among conservative evangelicals to get out the vote, there was significant opposition and resources poured into dividing and suppressing evangelical turnout and confusing the priorities of the 2024 presidential election. One thing remains certain of the 2024 presidential election: it is one for the ages, and it reminds us all about the importance of our participation. Elections have consequences. Elections affect policy, and policies matter because people matter. We must never forget that while political victories are immediate with real consequences, they are by no means trivial. They are also never permanent. And until Jesus returns, we must remain ever vigilant and faithful with our eyes fixed on the ultimate prize. The greatest lesson of the 2024 presidential election is that our participation and our prayers matter. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. But God's hand of mercy mattered most. America got what it did not deserve. The greater question is, how will you steward his mercy? It's our opportunity. Don't waste it.